Do religions divide us more than they unite us? Hey guys, it's John sitting here in my studio with a fantastic mug of coffee. John's show available in the link below. you know, Throughout history, religion has been a cornerstone of human civilization. It inspired profound acts of love and compassion, but it's also been the center of some of humanity's darkest chapters, deadliest moments. From the Crusades to modern day sectarian violence, it actually begs the question: do religions divide us more than they unite us? In this video, let's talk about that. Let's talk about exploring this idea, but let's do this not standing on our soapboxes screaming about our own points of view. Let's both open our hearts and our minds and look at this from a broader perspective, from the information that's being created around us that we can live from and experience from. I think most religions began with really good intentions. They were trying to find out what's right in the world, or trying to find out what the greater meaning of life is. And in most of them, they have love as their core. Their religion has a guiding force of love, compassion, and community. And I find that people are always constantly looking for community, then they find it in religions of some kind. The Catholic faith has hospitals, the Islamic zakat, which is charitable giving, Buddhist peace movements. All of them have these sort of charitable and beautiful, compassionate moments in them. At their core, most religions aim to elevate humanity. They teach love, they teach compassion, they teach service. Think about the incredible charitable work done in the name of the faith. Catholic hospitals saving lives. The Islamic zakat, as I said, feeding the poor. The Buddhist monks dedicating their lives to peace and mindfulness. Clearly, the intentions of all of these ideologies is noble, to put something positive into the world. But where did the things go wrong? Where did the things start to go awry, as they would say in the old movies? Well, what happened was they started having division through their dogmas. Christianity comes out and says the rest of you are wrong. Jesus is the only way, and it creates an us versus them sort of mentality within all religions. In Islam, you've got the Shia and the Sunni constantly fighting. You've got the Catholics and the Protestants constantly fighting, etc. So you get in all different forms and different beliefs and struggles of this way. These exclusive truths that they all claim to have are very dangerous, because my way is the only way means that you're wrong, which means you're putting somebody else's ideas down, their beliefs down. Each one of them use fear as a tactic, but when that fear becomes expressed outwardly towards another ideology, it creates conflict and division. One of the things is that the teaching of love is universal. It's one of those things that's found in all of them. And Dogma has a way of turning love into fear out of control. The Christians claim to be the one truth, and it creates an us versus them dynamic, like I said. But those conflicts within Islam that I mentioned, or within the Christian faith that I mentioned, are all about the ideologies of religion creating those divisions. When fear replaces love entirely, it creates a fearful world, and people start doing things out of fear and defending themselves out of fear. And once you start to defend out of fear, you're starting to escalate fear itself. You're starting to put yourself into a place where the fear itself gets to run amok and run out of control. When it comes to spirituality as opposed to religion, in true spirituality transcends the dogmas, the boundaries, the limitations of an ideology, and brings spirituality to the present moment. Oftentimes you'll find organizations like that, Habitat for Humanity, which is interfaith. It creates a bridge between religions, or it's really something that's kind of beautiful, because all religions are working together in that. When we start to look at the world from the spiritual values rather than the religious dogmas, we find love, kindness, and service. You know, spirituality doesn't need walls. It doesn't wear a label. Across all religious ideologies and faiths, people come together to collaborate on projects. But nowadays, it's getting rarer and rarer. People are tending to drop into their camp and saying the rest of you are wrong. What's interesting is when they start to drop those dogmas and they start to reflect on universal truths like love, kindness, and service. People start to do the loving thing, the caring thing. They start to create these ideologies and this concepts that are beyond religion, beyond dogmatic thinking, and beyond dogmatic divisions and doctrinal divisions as well. We look at the world from a place of love and compassion. If God is love, which almost all religions are in agreement, God is, or is definitely aligned with, then we have to look at the religions themselves. Is the division loving? Is the division something that's compassionate and loving and of God? And if you're prioritizing the doctrines and the dogmas over simply loving one another, then you're creating a division that will absolutely break down society in that regard, because there are so many different religions in the world, Christianity being 30% of them. And even in that's divided into different branches of Christianity. And the Catholics don't believe the Methodists are right, and the Methodists don't believe the Baptists are right, or any of them are right. All of them think they're all wrong. They may have started with noble roots, but they've grown into a tree of division. They've grown into a tree of, I'm standing here and I'm going to use my branches to drown out the sunlight of anything that's coming up below. And that idea of that original purpose of love and charity and service gets lost in the division of power and strength and who's right and who's wrong, the battles of ego that mean that everyone has to believe as they do. We live in a global community. And the boundaries or the borders have created these divisions in people, but we're one humanity. And when we start to divide, not only through borders with countries, but also through religious ideologies, we start creating a divided world. We start understanding that we have to grab for our power. But when you look at it from the perspective of, even if you looked at it from the perspective of climate change, we all live on the same world. Carbon emissions doesn't stop at the borders. We all need to look at this world from a perspective of, are we one humanity or are we divided? Are we one in love and compassion or are we divided? Religious dogmas divide. And when people stand on those dogmas as if they are the battleground of their faith, as opposed to the example of their faith, they start creating divisions and start using slanders and sarcasm to put people down. Now, I have found beauty in all religions. I found wonderful, beautiful people in all religions who never judged me for my beliefs. I've also found people in all religions who judge me for my belief and tell me how wrong I am. And I get called the Antichrist all the time and everything. But for me personally, because of my story, the majority of the vitriol I get comes from Christians. And, Joshua said, love one another. There are universal principles, love, empathy, compassion. And they transcend religion. They transcend the world. But when the religions themselves can't see past the borders or the boundaries of their faith, then they stop being the love that transcends and they become the division itself. And once they start to divide, they've separated themselves from the rest of humanity. And in separating themselves from the rest of humanity, they've put themselves in a position where they can't win, because there's going to be eternal conflict if we don't all step into this idea of coming together in unity instead of division. Do religions divide? Yes, they do. 100%. Has it helped or hindered humanity more? There is more death that's been attributed to religion than any other thought or idea in the world. More death is attributed to it, and unfortunately, that's led by the Catholic Church. It is the deadliest religion in the world. I'd love to hear your perspective on this. And people will argue it's not the deadliest religion in the world. It is by far statistically the deadliest religion in the world. Islam is less than 1/3 of what Christianity has done, and Catholicism especially. So when you look at this idea of is it loving, is it caring, is it accepting? I just recently heard a story about my sisters-in-law and how two of them being Catholic and one of them being a different brand, the two Catholics told her she couldn't get communion at their church, right? This goes back to when my aunt died and I went to her funeral, and the priest said, I'd like to offer all practicing Catholics communion. If but he wouldn't let it to anybody else who wasn't a practicing Catholic. Well, I wasn't a practicing Catholic, and honestly, that was the first time I didn't take communion while in a mass, because the priest divided me. He cut me from the flock. He told me that I'm no longer welcome in the house of Catholicism. And that is the division that was created. And when you look at it from that, religion has come up to be the cornerstone of society and civilization, as I said earlier. But, those profound acts of love and compassion gets wiped out by the division, the anger, the vitriol, the judgment, and all the things that they're using instead of simply loving one another. I leave you one commandment, love one another. He didn't say, I leave you one commandment if you're in my particular brand of religion. And that's where the division comes, as people stand on their soapbox and fight for their religion and fight others for their religion and to tell everyone they're wrong. And I think it's sad. And I think we should come back to a world of simply loving one another and being love and compassion in the world. So that's my thought on this. You guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. See ya. Bye.